Hardship exposes the structure of a man. Comfort can hide almost anything. A person can look disciplined when nothing tests his appetite, sound brave when no risk has arrived, speak about purpose while daily life remains easy enough to support the illusion. Pressure removes the costume. When money is tight, when the body is weak, when rejection lands, when loneliness becomes heavy, when the future looks unclear, the real operating system appears. Some people begin searching immediately for something outside themselves to blame, cling to, numb with, or worship. Others turn inward, not in a soft, reflective way, but like someone entering a locked room with a torch. They ask what still remains under their control. They ask which responsibility has been avoided. They ask what meaning can be chosen even when happiness is not available. That question matters because a man does not need perfect conditions to begin rebuilding. He needs one reason strong enough to make surrender unacceptable. Pain becomes much more dangerous when it has no purpose attached to it. A man can endure enormous strain if he knows why he is enduring it. Training hurts, but the body being built gives the pain direction. Long hours can be tolerated when the work serves a future that matters. Sacrifice becomes lighter when it protects someone you love, builds a life you respect, or prevents the old weakness from returning. Without meaning, even small discomfort starts feeling insulting. A delayed result feels personal. A boring task feels unbearable. A difficult morning feels like evidence that life is against you. This is why the inner reason matters. It turns suffering from random punishment into material. The burden may still be heavy, but it becomes carryable because it now belongs to a larger order. A man with no reason asks, "Why is this happening to me?" A man with a reason asks, "What must this make of me?" Viktor Frankl saw something in the worst conditions human beings could face. The survivors were not simply the strongest bodies or the sharpest minds. Many strong bodies broke. Many intelligent people lost the will to continue. Frankl noticed that the people who could locate a reason inside themselves had a different relationship with suffering. They were not magically untouched by terror, hunger, grief, or exhaustion. They were still human. They still suffered. Yet something in them had an anchor the outside world could not easily remove. A loved one waiting in memory, a task unfinished, a faith that refused to be handed over, a responsibility that reached beyond personal comfort. Frankl later called his approach logotherapy, built around the idea that man is driven not merely by pleasure or power, but by meaning. That point is severe because it removes excuses. If meaning can exist under horror, then ordinary difficulty cannot be allowed to become your excuse for spiritual laziness. Meaning is not always found. Often it is assigned. That distinction changes everything. A passive man keeps searching for a reason as if meaning is a lost object hidden somewhere in the world. He waits to feel inspired. He waits to feel chosen. He waits for the mission to appear with enough emotional force that action becomes easy. A harder truth exists. Meaning often begins when a man decides that a responsibility will matter, then lives as if that decision is law. A child becomes a reason. A craft becomes a reason. The body becomes a reason. God becomes a reason. A family name becomes a reason. A future self becomes a reason. A wound becomes a reason to stop repeating the damage. The mind can endure remarkable pressure once it stops treating purpose like a mood and starts treating it like an oath. You do not need to feel heroic before choosing your reason. You choose it, then let the work make you harder. The man waiting for meaning to arrive is easy to break because his center remains outside his control. Bad weather ruins him. Rejection ruins him. A failed plan ruins him. Another person's opinion ruins him. A slow month ruins him. His life becomes ruled by whatever arrives at the door. He calls himself tired, unlucky, misunderstood, unsupported, behind, damaged, or trapped, and some of those words may contain truth, but truth without responsibility becomes a coffin. The world can wound you. It should not be allowed to define your entire response. A man becomes his own rescue when he stops needing life to make sense before he behaves with dignity. He can be confused and still train. He can be hurt and still work. He can be lonely and still build. He can be afraid and still protect the standard. That is not denial. That is command. A reason strong enough to carry you cannot be vague. I want a better life will not hold when pressure rises. I want to be successful will disappear when boredom arrives. Soft language breaks under hard weather. The reason must have teeth. It must tell you exactly what weakness is no longer allowed to cost you. Perhaps your body has become proof that you abandoned yourself, and the reason becomes reclaiming physical command. Maybe your family history is full of dependence, fear, silence, or wasted potential, and your reason becomes ending that pattern in your name. A man may look at his future children, even before they exist, and decide they will not inherit his excuses. Another may look at the years already wasted and decide that regret has taken enough. Meaning becomes powerful when it moves from decoration to order. It must be clear enough to judge your choices. Building meaning also requires proof, not speeches, not late-night emotions, not dramatic promises made after consuming something inspiring. Proof. The mind begins believing in a reason when behavior starts serving it repeatedly. If your reason is family, the calendar must show it. When discipline is the reason, the body and environment must report that truth. If freedom is the reason, your money habits must stop contradicting the claim. A man who says he has found meaning but keeps living as if comfort remains king has not found meaning. He has found language. Proof turns an idea into identity. Every kept promise lays another brick. Every avoided escape makes the reason stronger. Each difficult action tells the nervous system that the mission is not a fantasy anymore. Slowly, the man stops needing to talk himself into purpose, because his life begins providing evidence that purpose has already taken command.
Watch how you treat comfort like a reward you have earned rather than the slow poison it quietly becomes. The soft bed you cannot leave in the morning. The food chosen for pleasure over strength. The endless small indulgences you grant yourself because you deserve them, because life is hard, because why not? Each one feels harmless, even kind, a little gift to yourself in a difficult world. But stacked together across years, these comforts are hollowing you out, teaching your body and mind to flinch from any strain until you have trained yourself into a softness that will fail you the moment life demands anything real. Notice the gap between the man you are on easy days and the man you swear you will become when tested. You believe there is a switch inside you, some reserve of strength you can flip on when the stakes are high enough, and that the lazy version of you now has nothing to do with the capable version who will show up later. This belief is a comforting fiction. The way you do the small things is the way you will do the large ones, because you are not two men but one, and the habits you build in the ordinary moments are the only habits you will have when the extraordinary moment arrives. You cannot bank softness now and withdraw strength later. The Roman general Scipio Africanus understood this in a way that made him nearly untouchable. He ate the same plain meal every day, slept on the hard ground when he could have slept in luxury, and trained harder than the soldiers under his command. And when men asked him why a great general would live so austerely, his answer cut to the core of everything. Comfort, he said, was what would destroy Rome, not the enemy Carthage. He saw that the real threat to greatness was never the external foe, but the internal rot of softness, the slow decay that comfort breeds in men who stop demanding anything of themselves. The historian Livy watched Scipio outperform the pampered aristocrats around him and identified the single trait that set him apart. It was not birth, not talent, not luck, but the discipline he imposed on himself when no one was forcing it, the deliberate hardness he built into his ordinary life. He rescued himself from softness long before he ever set foot on a battlefield, so that when the battlefield came, he was already the man it required. The aristocrats, comfortable and unpracticed, crumbled under pressures that Scipio had spent his easy days preparing for. He won the crisis before it started in the unglamorous rehearsal of daily discipline. Reframe discipline entirely, because you have been taught to see it wrong. It is not punishment, not a grim denial of pleasure, not a joyless grind you endure because you must. Discipline is a man voting for his future self, casting a ballot every single day for the person he will need to be when the hard moment finally comes. Every cold morning you train, every indulgence you refuse, every difficult thing you do when the easy thing was available, you are voting for a stronger future you, building him choice by choice before he is ever tested. The undisciplined man votes too, but he votes for a weaker self, and that self is who shows up when it matters. Here is a psychological truth that changes how you should see your comfortable days. Your brain adapts precisely to what you repeatedly ask of it, growing capable in the areas you stress and weak in the areas you spare. Ask nothing of yourself, and it obligingly becomes a mind that can handle nothing, wired for ease, allergic to strain. Ask hard things of yourself consistently, and it rewires toward strength, building the capacity to endure that soft living can never produce. You are training your brain every day whether you intend to or not, and comfort trains it to break, while difficulty trains it to hold. Understand what Scipio really grasped, that the war is won or lost long before the fighting starts. By the time the crisis arrives, the man you are is already fixed, already built by 10,000 ordinary choices you made when the stakes seemed low. You do not get to become someone new in the emergency. You only get to discover who your daily habits have been quietly making you all along. This is why the ordinary day matters so much more than it appears, because it is not filler between the important moments, but the very forge where your response to those moments is being shaped invisibly, whether you are paying attention or not.
Frederick Douglass, a slave, did not begin his escape with his feet. He began it with his mind. That distinction matters, because many people think freedom starts only when the outside world changes, when the gate opens, when the boss gives permission, when the family finally understands, when the economy improves, when someone arrives with rescue in their hands. Douglass was born into a system designed to make him believe he was property, to keep him unable to read, unable to question, unable to name the machinery holding him down. Physical bondage was enforced by law, violence, and custom, but the deeper prison was meant to live inside the head. If a man cannot read the world, he must accept the version of the world handed to him by those who benefit from his obedience. That is why teaching himself to read was not a hobby. It was rebellion in its purest form. Before the body moved, the mind had already crossed a border. A system that wants control will always fear an educated mind, because knowledge gives a man internal territory that cannot be easily occupied. The slaveholder understood this more clearly than many modern men understand it about their own lives. Keep a man ignorant, and you do not need to answer his questions because he has not yet learned how to form them sharply. Keep him dependent, and he may mistake dependence for nature. Remove language from him, and he struggles to describe the crime being committed against him. Douglass learning letters in secret was not simply about symbols on a page. Each letter became a crack in the wall. Each word gave shape to a thought that had been waiting for a weapon. The alphabet did not break the chains immediately, but it gave him the ability to understand the chain, hate the chain properly, explain the chain, and eventually plan against it. Modern men are not Frederick Douglass, and pretending ordinary discomfort is the same as slavery would be shallow and dishonest. Yet his life exposes a principle that remains severe. The first escape often happens inside perception. A man trapped in debt, weakness, distraction, fear, addiction, bad habits, low standards, or a dead routine may not be physically imprisoned, but his choices can still be governed by forces he has not learned to see. If he has no financial literacy, money controls him. Without emotional discipline, moods control him. If he cannot read his own habits, temptation controls him. When he does not understand the system around his attention, algorithms control him. Ignorance always creates an owner. Sometimes that owner has a face. Sometimes it appears as a phone, an appetite, a craving, a paycheck, a crowd, a childhood wound, or a belief he never questioned. Douglass did something many people refuse to do, even with every resource available. He took responsibility for learning while surrounded by reasons not to. Nobody handed him perfect conditions. Nobody gave him a quiet study room, a clean schedule, a supportive environment, or a gentle path. He learned in fragments, in secret, through hunger for a life beyond the one assigned to him. That should embarrass a man who has internet access, libraries, podcasts, books, courses, notebooks, time wasted daily, and still claims confusion as a permanent condition. The issue today is rarely lack of access. Access is everywhere. The issue is weakness of appetite for truth. People consume information that soothes them, flatters them, entertains them, and confirms what they already want to believe, while avoiding the kind of knowledge that would demand a change in behavior. Douglass sought knowledge because remaining ignorant was too expensive. Many today remain ignorant because comfort has made ignorance feel affordable. Self-education is not the same as collecting content. A man can watch 1,000 videos and remain exactly where he is if nothing enters his conduct. Real learning changes the way a person moves. It gives him sharper questions, cleaner standards, better judgment, and less patience for the lies that kept him still. Douglass did not learn to read so he could decorate his identity with intelligence. He learned because language gave him power over reality. He could understand arguments, see contradictions, recognize injustice, speak with force, write with precision, and carry an inner world larger than the world trying to reduce him. That is the difference between knowledge as entertainment and knowledge as liberation. Entertainment gives the mind something to hold for a moment. Liberation gives the mind a blade. If what you are learning does not change what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you refuse, or how you act under pressure, it has not become yours yet. A man's first real task is to identify where he has been kept mentally small, not by making himself a victim, but by becoming accurate. Which area of life stays confusing, because confusion gives you an excuse not to act? Which skill have you avoided because learning it would remove your favorite complaint? Which subject frightens you because it would expose how long you have been operating blind? Money, health, communication, discipline, business, faith, history, psychology, writing, sales, focus, leadership, whatever the field may be, the pattern is the same. A blind spot survives because it remains unstudied. The moment you begin learning it seriously, excuses start dying. That is why the mind resists. It understands that education brings responsibility. Once you know better, the old behavior becomes harder to defend. The lazy part of a man would rather stay confused than stand trial under the light of knowledge. The cold lesson in Douglass's story is that nobody can outsource awakening. Others can help. Others can teach, guide, inspire, protect, support, and open doors. Still, no one can do the internal act for you.
You have told yourself that fixing your life is a selfish pursuit, that focusing on your own growth means neglecting the people who need you. So you put it off. You pour yourself into everyone else while staying broken, wearing your self-neglect like a badge of devotion, and you call it love. But look at what your brokenness is actually doing to the people around you. They are not being served by your refusal to fix yourself. They are being burdened by it, forced to absorb the consequences of a man who never did the work. And every day you stay broken in the name of others, you quietly make their lives harder. Watch the weight your partner carries because you have not become who you could be. The emotional labor she shoulders alone. The decisions she makes because you are too passive to make them. The strength she has to summon because you never built your own, leaving her to hold up a life that should have two people holding it. You think staying comfortable protects her from the disruption of your growth, but the opposite is true. Your refusal to rise forces her to carry weight that was never hers, to compensate endlessly for the man you have not yet become. And she is exhausted in ways you have trained yourself not to see. Think about the children watching you, learning what a man is by studying you every single day. They do not hear your intentions or your excuses. They see what you do, how you handle hardship, whether you rise or retreat, and they are absorbing it all, building their own template for life from the example you set. A boy watching a passive father learns that passivity is what men do. A child watching you avoid every hard thing learns to avoid hard things. You are not just living your life, you are writing the code that will run in your children for decades. And right now you may be passing down the very weakness you swore you would spare them. The psychologist, Carl Jung, wrote something that should stop every father cold. He said, "The greatest burden a child carries is the unlived life of the parent. The dreams you abandoned, the potential you buried, the growth you refused, none of it disappears when you ignore it. It transfers. Your children inherit the weight of who you failed to become, absorbing your unfulfilled potential as a kind of invisible pressure, a debt they did not create, but must somehow carry." Jung understood that a parent's stagnation is never contained to the parent. It seeps into the next generation, shaping them in ways neither of you will ever fully trace. Understand the mechanism behind this, because it is not mystical. Children learn who to be by watching, absorbing the behavior of the adults around them, far more than the words. This is how humans have always transmitted what it means to be a man, not through lectures, but through example, the young studying the old and becoming what they see. When you stay broken, you are not just failing yourself, you are teaching brokenness to everyone watching, passing down passivity and avoidance and softness as if they were heirlooms. And when you rise, you teach that too, showing the next generation that a man can change, can grow, can refuse the easy decline. Your example is the lesson, whether you choose it or not. Consider what your growth would actually give the people around you, instead of what your comfort supposedly protects. A partner who finally gets to set down the weight she has carried alone, because you have grown strong enough to share it. Children who watch a father transform and learn that transformation is possible, that men are not fixed, that the hard road can be walked. The ripple of one man fixing himself spreads far beyond him, touching everyone in his orbit, lifting burdens he did not even know he was placing on others. This is the generosity hidden inside self-improvement. The way becoming stronger is never only for you, but for everyone who depends on you.